Hello. Our lesson for the upcoming week is lesson number 9 in the Salt and Light book, entitled Rain Even for the Unrighteous. The primary scripture is taken from Matthew 5, verses 38 through 40, and there is reference to the Confession of Faith in a Mennonite Perspective, article number 22, by author Jacob Lee. The stated purpose is to discover how God calls and empowers us to resist our enemies with the creative love of Jesus. Now, in the upcoming Sunday, our class will be celebrating communion as we do monthly. Our discussion last week, on last week's lesson, it inspired me and inspired us as a group to raise the bar on how we view communion. I have asked the class to have each person examine themselves in observance of what Paul instructed in 1 Corinthians 11:28. We talked about practicing foot washing, but haven't figured out how to do that yet. We did talk about the importance of relationships, which is certainly fundamental to a celebration of communion. Lee's lesson always starts with a section on spiritual practice. The sessions 10 through 13 talk about 4 steps toward forgiveness. This week, in lesson number 10, the discussion is on step number 1, telling the story. The main lesson this week is talking about how to treat your enemy, the unrighteous person. Jesus talks about it in Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 through 42, which I will read. You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow you. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father in heaven. So basically, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount is telling us that we should not violently retaliate against someone who attacks us. Instead, we should show love. Now let's circle back to the discussion on communion. One facet of that self-examination is maybe to think about, to what enemy have I responded with less than love? Well, I haven't fought off any physical attackers, but perhaps I may have rebuffed somebody's confrontational conversation that could have been turned to the better. Now, some time ago, we talked about Jesus' example of the Good Samaritan. We tried to answer the question, which person are we? Which person am I? Am I the Good Samaritan? Am I the poor, attacked Jewish citizen? Is there any possibility that I am somehow one of the thugs who did the attacking? Jesus' example in this week's scriptures talks about an unjust burden legally imposed by a Roman soldier. Jesus says when that happens, carry that load an extra mile. The law requires you to carry it 1 mile, carry it 2 miles. When we look at this parable, this story, is there any possible way that I could be the soldier? One possible selection of music for this week is a song entitled Bear the Burden in the Heat of the Day. I like a version sung by Paul Robeson. You can find it on YouTube. I would ask that you join me in praying that we, the church, the bride of Christ, carefully consider the truths presented by our King. We do not want to be the soldier. Accessible Fellowship is an online ecclesia geared to accommodate those who face barriers or challenges to attending traditional church. We are suspending our Monday afternoon Salt and Light session, but we will have our Salt and Light study session every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 1400 UTC if you're not in our time zone. We also have times of casual fellowship and Bible study during the week. We encourage those who can get out to a more traditional church to do so if they're called to. But we also encourage our members to reach out to those who can't. You can check out our website at www.accessiblefellowship.org. Contact us with any comments or questions you might have. And please go in peace. Goodbye.